Scene Daddy Interviews.
Welcome everyone to Scene Daddy Interviews. My name is Ian, and really, I never thought I would ever be able to say this, but right now on the phone, I have Pouyan of Scary Kids Scaring Kids. Pouyan, man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ian. How you doing?
Not too bad. We just had a little catch up off air, and it was really funny talking to you about all the background stuff before we actually get into this. But it's seriously, I never thought that this would actually be able to happen.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
Well, now, I'm assuming you didn't mean that you'd be on Scene Daddy Interviews.
No, for sure. It's great to be on Scene Daddy too. But yeah, I was definitely referring to the fact that I never thought we'd have another tour
Right
again.
Well, it's so, and now let's get that out of the way because obviously that's the big news. We are of this recording. We're a week post when the actual announcement came out that Scary Kids Scaring Kids were reuniting for the 15th anniversary of the City Sleeps in Flames tour that you guys are going to be doing in January of 2020. So the question isn't necessarily how did that come about? I'm sure we'll get to that. I know you've had many, many interviews where you've already really gone through that. But just now that you're a week removed, how are your feelings now?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it feels great. I think the shock of it all is kind of gone that it's actually happening, and we're kind of like, I'm kind of, now it's like, oh, okay, getting comfortable with the songs again, and and the dates are locked in, and it's feeling real. So it's kind of starting to feel normal again. I don't think it's fully going to feel normal until we're back on stage, but yeah, it's kind of normalizing a bit.
When you plan things out, do you literally have, is it like a movie or a TV show with a montage where you've got a calendar up and you're just marking off the days, every single one, until that first date?
Kind of. You know what I actually have is all of my songs listed in order. So we have the whole set list and the interludes and the breaks and all that stuff mapped out. And now one at a time, I'm pulling the songs off as I learn them. And revisiting them every morning and just kind of going through them multiple times. Because I honestly haven't played for 10 years. That's different for the other band members. But I haven't played keyboards since Scary Kids disbanded. And so I knew there was going to be a lot of work to get done. And it's really stuff. It looks like one of those, I mean, we're coming up on the holidays, those are like chocolate calendars that you open up and you pick a chocolate out of every day.
The advent
when you get closer to Christmas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I have I have little red Post-it notes over each of the blue Post-it notes, and once I finish a song multiple times without a flaw or being slightly offbeat, I'll take my little red Post-it note off and be like, okay, it's like green now. So we're getting there.
Very nice. Now, can you share, or is that too personal, what song you're on right now?
Yeah, let me see. Let me go to my little music station right now.
Absolutely.
Breath of Sunshine is the one that I just tightened up.
So, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, to that end, because it's a City Sleeps in Flames reunion tour for the 15th anniversary, we're playing a lot of songs, actually, that we never played live.
Mm-hmm.
This is also going to be the longest set we've ever played, coming in at over an hour. We're still to be decided how much over an hour. We don't want to exhaust people, but we're playing plenty of songs. All the songs from City Sleeps in Flames, and then a handful from the self-titled as well. So it's going to be, we don't expect to do this again. So we're gonna try to satisfy ourselves fully with hearing everything that we want to hear on stage, and then also playing everything that people come to see.
That's very cool. And you answered one of my questions was, whether or not you were going to go a little bit further and do some of the self-titled. So let's go back 10 years then when you do the farewell tour. Did you have that same feeling of finality when you were doing that to what you just mentioned where you're expecting this to be the last time as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the farewell tour was a little different than this, obviously, for many reasons. But first and foremost, It was difficult for us to break up. I don't think all of us were ready to end the band, and it was kind of a bit sad for some of us. It was very bittersweet. We were happy that we got one last run to where we could play all the songs that we kind of put so much of our heart into,
right,
and kind of loved and progressed with over time. But very sad to leave that world and that kind of identity
of course
behind. But this time around, it's very different. I think, for me, that's just, it's not even a part of who I am anymore. It's like a part of who I was. It's like the same way that, your musical taste or your identity in high school is different than it might be. Like everyone's doing the 2009 versus 19 thing. It's like, it's me visiting that 2009 person again and actually embodying that person again. Right. So,
sure.
Because of that, obviously, I'm not going to do and be exactly that person I was on stage, but it's not as precious anymore. I don't take that persona so personally, if you will, right? I am not that person. So it's like revisiting something special rather than being extremely precious about it.
Right. Okay, that definitely makes sense. So basically, and also the joking part of me wants to ask you, so you're not going to be jumping off of crazy high things into the crowd?
Yeah, man, I don't know, but I got to be honest. Like, if I did, like there were so many times where, a handful of times where people didn't catch me, right? The only ones that really got on film were when people caught me. But listen, if I, like at the Stoma once, I went straight, like people were like, no, fuck that. I'm not catching that. And I would just fall straight to the wooden planks.
Right.
And, I'd bounce back up and get on stage. Like, listen, I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. Like, I'm a bit out of practice, right? So yeah, maybe I won't try that. But again, once you're up there, a different kind of energy, and I can't promise that I'm not going to do it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you might get it, you might not. But then also, the body after 10 extra years doesn't recover at the same rate.
Yeah.
So that's also something. Well,
yeah, listen, I'm not Lethal Weapon 2 over here, but yeah, I am. I'm not like fully tooled for this shit, but like
it's getting there.
Creeping up on it. So
I can understand that. I can certainly understand that. So you made mention of it, and we kind of talked about it a little bit off air. So you've been out of the, we even say you've been out of the scene for so long now. And I mean, for what I've seen throughout the years, it seems like you've led a pretty damn interesting life that's not a part of music necessarily. It looks like you've been into producing movies, VR. Like, it's very interesting stuff. Can you take me through and take the audience through a little bit of what your life has been like since then?
Yeah, sure. I've always been a fan of entertainment. I mean, long before I was in a band, and even during being in the band, I was always a fan of entertainment, specifically film. Obviously, more recently, television, when television had its renaissance.
Right.
So I've been very curious to explore that, and I worked really hard. Got fortunate enough to attend USC without paying millions and millions of dollars, and went to their film school, which I loved, and it was some of the best years of my life, to be honest. Just really getting to analyze and study film. During that, I produced some music videos and commercials, and worked at a talent agency, and more recently, had started doing some business development and producing work with virtual reality and to a lesser extent augmented reality, but also like always at the service of storytelling. So always focusing on something that moves people, right? Going in and into whatever experience that is, whether it's a VR headset or whether with music, if it's putting your headphones on and coming out with a new perspective. That's always, or feeling moved or feeling something different than you did three minutes ago. I think that's something really special about the human experience, and any form that can deliver that has always excited me, and I've really found that in virtual reality, the ability to fully, a word we use, immerse somebody in a completely different perspective. It's just completely inspired me. And I've been fortunate enough to work with a couple of really great companies. One called the Virtual Reality Company. We did a Jurassic World VR experience on a motion platform.
Right.
So you sit in a chair and it like moves and jolts, and you're like in Jurassic World, right?
That's cool.
And so that was a lot of fun, and also got to work on something called The Wolves in the Walls that you can get for free on Oculus.
Oh.
It's a 40-plus minute experience based on the book by the same name, written by Neil Gaiman. And that one's a really beautiful adventure of a little girl that discovers wolves in her walls and tries to convince her family that they're there. And that one won an Emmy and got VR Experience of the Year. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, but ultimately, first and foremost, they're just really great stories. But yeah, I've been fortunate to work with amazing teams and see people get to experience the final product, which is a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. Well, first, congrats. I've been able to keep up with a little bit of it, but I've never been able to actually experience, a situation or a game like that before. The question I would have, though, is since you've had all this music experience in the past, have you ever wanted to combine those two? And I'm not sure if, I mean, I know you love the music, but I'm not sure if the love is there enough to combine them, because what I've always thought is it'd be very cool for people to, you talk about that immersion, to be able to do that with a concert experience where you're not actually there, but you get to live that storytelling that the artist is doing live. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen Fortnite, what they did with Marshmello?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so they had, I think it was 10 plus million users in Fortnite watching someone do like a live DJ set, right?
Okay.
So there are a handful of companies doing this. Sanzar does it really well. The Wave VR does it really well. Those are two companies that someone in virtual reality with a headset on either does a comedy show or does a live DJ set or even plays violin live while wearing a mocap suit.
Oh,
their
wow.
performance is live cast through, throughout the world to anybody with a VR headset that has downloaded the app and decides to join.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's really exciting. It's really interesting. And yes, I mean, the short answer is yes, absolutely. I think that's a really cool way to deliver it. There are definitely challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges is making sure that people get headsets, right? You mentioned that you have an experience, a VR experience. Unfortunately, that I think the majority of people, right? But Facebook and HTC and some other companies are helping solve those, those hardware problems. But but yeah, I mean, the content itself is so moving. But it's maybe a distribution problem here.
Sure.
At the moment. I would love to invite everyone to my house to put on a headset, but it's just going to take too long,
Just a little bit too long. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to go out on that tour. So, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying about distribution is, I think as time goes on, it will get easier. I mean, a lot of VR headsets right now are a lot easier to obtain than they were 2 years ago. So it's just a matter of time before, because I know Samsung does it. That's kind of an easy way. The Oculus, like you mentioned, that one's kind of easier to get your hands on. If Facebook gets their hands on it and they put it out, it will become easier. So that is very cool. Would you do anything like this? Now, I know you wouldn't be able to develop a technology to be able to do it, but would you at least want to share the experience of such a special tour like this, even though I know, it's been announced you're also going to do East Coast dates at some point, but you're never going to reach everybody that you probably want to reach. Is there the possibility of doing some type of live stream or some type of experience for what you guys are going to be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything's a possibility. And the great thing about virtual reality is that, it's preferable for us to be all in the same room. It's not absolutely necessary. So we can get Chad a headset out in Arizona. I can have one here in LA, and we can throw Cove one in Vista. Granted, we're all 3 hours away, so we might as well drive.
Right.
But the cool thing is that could literally happen any day. That we could all pop in and throw our instruments on with a little bit of preparation and put something out there that can seem as if that we're all in the same room,
right?
As well as everyone else in the world, maybe be in the same room as us in a living room sharing an acoustic set.
That's very cool.
Which could be really beautiful and intimate.
Absolutely. On that note, right there, have you 6 people been in the same room yet?
Not all at the same time, no. But we have. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I should be admitting this. No, so we haven't. The bottom line is we haven't. I'm making a couple weekend trips to Arizona. The holidays coming up are going to be our real practice times. As I mentioned, a lot of us are now have our full time kind of careers and in Chad and Peter's case, families to juggle.
True.
So a lot of us are doing practice on our own, and we're sharing. We're sharing files and doing it. Like in my timeline, the old postal service way, but really how everyone's doing it these days, which is just communicating digitally and then putting a good chunk of time actually here within a month to get all in the same room, but not as of yet.
Interesting. Wow. I mean, to me, I would think that would be very stressful for you to think about as well, especially because it's yourself, Chad, and Pete as the core members of the group right now. Yeah. And then you brought in Cove, Jordan, I believe it's Jordan Flowers and Don Veda.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, have you met every single one of these people at some point? Or, everyone asks how Cove, got involved, and we'll talk about that for sure. But how did Jordan Flowers and Don Veda get involved?
Yeah, so I'll say that Jordan, myself, Pete, and Chad have all been in the same room, and Don and Cove have been in the same room.
Okay.
So it's just that we haven't had an entire full band practice yet.
Right.
Cove, Pete was an original member of the band.
Right.
He recorded on City Sleeps and Flames, the first album, and then left the band shortly thereafter, went back to school and did some other really great stuff. But the drum set that he recorded on the City Sleeps and Flames, when we called him about the reunion tour, he mentioned that he still has that drum set.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Is going to be playing that exact same drum kit live on stage. So we're very excited about that. Jordan is a really good friend of mine and is a professional touring musician and tours with a lot of great bands.
Right.
Check out his website. He's got the whole list there.
Sure.
And then we have Cove. I'll get to Cove at the end, but Don is actually in Cove's band.
Right. Dead American.
And
right.
does back. That's right. Yeah. So he does backup vocals and is also a really fantastic guitarist and made a lot of sense for the lead. And Cove was the first and most important selection. I think the reason that I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that we didn't have any intentions of doing a reunion tour is obviously when Tyson passed. It just didn't make any sense to go up on stage and try to replace him. And it's not. And to be honest, I don't really feel that that's what this is. I think it's like more of an homage to him on this tour, right?
Right.
Or kind of paying our respects. Cove has been a brother of ours for the longest time. During a work tour that we kind of discussed offline, when Tyson went missing for a few days out on that Warped Tour, Cove stepped up along with some other really great dudes.
Oh yeah.
Brandon Balmer and a whole bunch of other great guys.
Yep.
And helped fill in. So we knew he clicked with the band. He was also one of our brothers. We would trade like funk spots so that we could all ride together here and there.
Yeah.
And he and Tyson were also really close. So
okay.
So for all those reasons, it just made sense, and we wanted someone that knew and was close with Tyson, and that would, that had similar voice to him, could scream as well as sing very melodically and beautiful. And I think Cove has proven that on everything that he's put his voice to. It's
for sure.
Really one of my favorites. So to have him be on the tour was really our only, in my opinion, my only option for me. Like, it was the only person that made sense to me.
Yeah.
So Chad had released Loved Forever.
Right.
In honor of Tyson. And when he did that, there was a booking agent and a manager that reached out and said, listen, we'd love to get you guys on a reunion tour. This has kind of created a little bit of buzz, and we'd love to get you out there. We said, fantastic, but the only way that we would be interested in doing that would be if we got Cove on board.
Wow.
Now, for us, we didn't really know if that was an option or not. We didn't know if Cove was doing that, and even though we were really tight back in the day, none of us had really talked all that much since then. Next thing you know, we get a text from Cove saying, absolutely, would love it. Let's do this.
Wow.
And from then it was just like a snowball of everything going right.
Yeah.
And now we're here. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot, with the whole setup of everything, but that is great. I mean, I think the big surprise is just knowing right off the bat that you wanted Cove, because as you mentioned, you guys were friends, but to be away from each other for so long and then still have his name in the back of your mind, I think that's the big thing, is to all be on the same page with that. And then for him to have the same feeling, because as I mentioned, and as you mentioned, he's in Dead American right now. They've had an EP coming out. They're going to be touring, I think, like right after, the tour that you guys are doing as well. So it's just really interesting that you guys were able to pull that off for sure. So you've got your core members, but then, and you've got Jordan, you've got Dawn, and now you've got Cove. But what about DJ or Steve? Did you guys reach out to them at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the last Warped Tour, DJ unfortunately didn't join us, but he, from the beginning, to us, I mean, was Scary Kids. This is his identity, as much as it is anyone else's. So,
yeah.
First and foremost, we wanted to make sure that we brought all our brothers back out with us. So as soon as we heard that this could be a reality, we're like, all right, let's see what everyone's availability is. And unfortunately, DJ and Steve just had too much going on in life where they weren't able to make it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I didn't think that there was any major backstory, like, oh man, I can't believe they didn't, they didn't ask him or anything. But I just wanted to know, because so many fans are so used to them being such a part of the band. But it's cool that they gave the blessing to be able to go out and do this, and you still got a real core of the band to go out there.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go back to when you mentioned Love Forever. So Chad put that out, I believe, at the beginning of October, and that was a tribute to Tyson. And I just want to know, did he run that by you guys first? Did he tell you that he was going to do that, or was that something he just wanted to do on his own and put that out there?
Yeah, so Chad had written that song on his own, and because I mentioned I hadn't played music for the past decade, and he was sitting on it, and he showed it to me a while back, and I thought it was great, but we didn't really have any intention to put it out under the Scary Kids name.
Okay.
And Chad just really didn't know what to do with it. So then I think I'm not sure whether he had a band at the time or not, but I think ultimately he thought it would be most meaningful if he put it out under Scary Kids name. So it was literally the night before the release that he gave me a call, and he's like, hey man, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, go for it. Absolutely. So there's really no like deep, long story behind it.
Sure.
It was just the night before he called me and he said, hey man, thinking of releasing this under Scary Kids. What do you think? That'd be great.
There you go. Yeah, it kind of, I mean, it was the catalyst, I guess you would say, right, for getting the tour together in the first place, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I'm kind of blown away still that this is, and I'm sure you are too, in a way as well, where this has all come about in seemingly a pretty short amount of time. Because if you think, if everything really happened after that track came out, then it hasn't really been that long. It's been a couple of months. So it just seems like such a string of events that you wouldn't have expected to happen to all come together so well. And it seems like, you don't want to say like fate, but it really does seem that way. And with all these other bands getting back together for reunions, for either making music or, going out on tour as well, it just seems really cool that, especially on the 15-year coming up, that you guys were able to do this. I guess the question for you would be, since you've been away from the scene for so long, what is the shock factor like for you right now?
Can I be honest? I have been away for so long that when they told me that there was interest for a tour and I found out there still was a scene, I was shocked that there was even a scene that existed and like still to this day. I thought that was like, a period of time that faded with like Hot Topic, but I was very surprised to see that it is alive and thriving.
Right. Well then, what do you normally listen? Are you completely done with music where, some people can just...
No, man, it's not like I hate music. It's
Right.
not like not one of those I hate music people. No, for sure. I think, I mean, what am I listening to? Great question. I don't know. Let me see what's on my Discover Weekly. Okay, here we go. On my record player, I have Jimmy World
Okay.
is the record that's currently on there. And before I was listening to Vance Joy. So
Okay.
I think I'm maybe just listening to less hardcore stuff,
Sure.
less aggressive. Here, I'm going to fly through a few. We got Van Morrison, That's My Girlfriend, Tron Legacy, Radiohead.
Oh, wow.
Who's this? Phosphorescent.
I don't know who that is.
Muse, obviously Muse, right? Moby. But these are all kind of like, there's nothing's new here. Porter Robinson, I guess, is a little newer.
Sure.
But yeah, man, so it's like nothing too underground Hozier.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, man, you got your jazz samba with Stan Getz and Charlie Bird for the dinner parties, right?
Oh, of course.
So,
who doesn't
of
have
course,
that?
you got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, it's not that different. Surprisingly enough, when I have bands on here, some bands don't listen at all to the style of music that they make.
Right.
You know, they're often completely different directions. So it's not that different. It's just I don't know if I've had anyone on the show that's been so far removed, you know, for a certain amount of time, and then to come back in and we discussed this. It's probably a good time to do it. We discussed this a little bit off air. For me, this is such a big deal because Scary Kids Scaring Kids, with, I would say, Scary Kids Scaring Kids, My Chemical Romance, and Funeral for a Friend, and From First to Last. Those were the bands that got me into, you know, post-hardcore, screamo, whatever genre you want to put them in. So I never thought I'd have a chance not only to see you guys live again, but to have you on the show. It just seemed like it was a band that would never be back.
Yeah, that's wild, man. That's really wild, and thanks for saying that. I mean, it's always crazy to hear that, you know, and it doesn't happen that often, but it's very wild to hear that you were, you know, someone that, you know, people listen to in the same way that maybe I listened to a band that I was so into that was underground and that kind of helped shape my musical tastes, right? And to think that your band was that for, you know, even one other person is it's just wild, right? It's a little bit heady.
Well, looking back, do you consider Scary Kids to be an underground band? Like, would there have been some instance of, I don't know, like a platform for fame that you would have been like, wow, we hit that and we were a quote unquote popular band? How do you feel looking back? Do you think Scary Kids, you know, besides what I just said, do you think Scary Kids is a band that was able to influence, you know, fans, but then also other artists in the scene as well?
Sure. I mean, I don't think that we ever hit that, you know, pivotal point where we, you know, went into mass appeal. I think after the self-titled album, once we signed with RCA, we were beginning to make music that was a little more mature, and the album that we didn't release, and maybe that could have had that appeal. But I mean, to that extent, I think we were still in our nascent years when we broke up. We're still figuring out our sound in the self-title, and that was the self-title was formalizing that sound a little bit.
For sure.
But we never fully matured. And I think, listen, we hit some Billboard charts, but nothing to signify that we were a big band or a very impactful band by any, I think, by any real measure of those words. Yeah. So I think to that extent, we're really, really an underground band, where people's relationship with the band, it's like, it's still their personal band, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you discovered our band and you listened to our band, it's meaningful to you as a person, and you have a personal relationship with it. It doesn't really, it hadn't reached that moment where it then belongs to the rest of the world. It's still yours and your own, and you can remember it fondly as such. That's
Sure.
how I perceive it. It could be different for other people.
Ah, okay. All right. And maybe it's always hard to put that in perspective when you're a fan of a band. I guess you kind of just imagine the people that you listen to that have done so much for your life. You kind of picture them as that that bigger than life band that obviously knows that they're so important. But then when you look at it from the way you were just speaking about it, it's really interesting to hear that perspective from you instead of taking it from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, and I think, like, listen, your perspective and my perspective is going to be different. For me, will always be those high school friends that got really lucky and for some reason had enough belief in our sound to, rent a van and go on a West Coast tour and book all those dates ourselves. And then again, got really lucky from there. And then the snowball kept rolling. But we'll always be those high school kids that were eating 99-cent bomb burritos and like using the change in the cup so that's always what the band will be to me. And I don't think I'll ever like see it in another way. Right.
Yeah. To me, I would think that'd be kind of it back in the day. Obviously, you had your good times, and I'm sure you had your bad times, living out of your van and, like you said, kind of scraping by money-wise and whatever else you could get to sustain yourself. But nowadays, when you look at bands, I don't see that kind of storytelling anymore. I don't know, and maybe that's still, I was in failed bands before, but you almost still want those stories like you're telling of the quote-unquote glory days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that comes straight from the bands that we were inspired by, man. Like, what we thought punk rock was, right, from the outside. We saw a whole bunch of people that we thought were like really close friends playing to other people to share their sound and create a community. Be that like at a veterans hall where you're literally at eye level with the musicians, or at your local, 200 cap to 1,000 cap venue. Where they're just thrashing and you can tell it's like super raw music, like, the difference between like college football and the NFL. I'm not a sports person, but I understand the difference, right? Like where it's raw, full of heart, and people are taking risks.
Yeah.
And I think being inspired by the punk and the hardcore scene, it was always all about that, right?
Yeah.
You're a part of the community with the people that come to your shows.
Right. And it's not, I think people throw out sellout a lot more than they probably should, because I don't think a lot of people really understand. Like right now, I'm still going to shows in VFW halls. I'm still going to, local shows and, seeing these bands really scrape and claw for that sound, for you to experience what they're putting out there for you, for their art. But it's so different hearing a band around 10 years ago when, like the glory days of Warped Tour and all that kind of stuff. That's what people are trying to experience now when you get the hashtag 29 scene. Right. They're thinking about, those glory days of such great bands that were just hanging out and going on these Warped Tours every single year and then scraping by, like you mentioned, and doing these tours that they didn't even think they'd be able to do. Right. Just based on not having money and not having a van and all that kind of stuff. So it's just really cool to hear you talk about that. And I want to hit on something that you mentioned earlier. You talked about the self-titled and how that was a little bit of a maturing of the sound of the band. And that was a lot different. I mean, it's still Scary Kids. If you listen to that, that's what I hear. I'm not like, oh man, this is, they quote unquote sold out like we mentioned before. It's definitely different. But what to you would have been the next step? Because I think a big rumor, maybe it's not a big rumor, but it's always seemed to be a rumor to me. The rumor was that you guys had an entire album already done and completed except for vocals. So you had that whole third album. First of all, I guess the question is that true? And second is, did that have a quote unquote more mature sound compared to the self-titled?
Yeah, I think we were pretty close. And I certainly do think it was a step closer to getting our tastes realized in music, right? Like, when we were young and first starting, I think like a lot of bands that really appreciate this type of music, we were focusing on technicality, originality, and then there's like little, for that time, emo ballad moments, right? And blending those in, and then trying to get a breakdown that moves the crowd in there too. I think later on, we tried to focus a little more on making sure that the sound that we wanted to hear was highlighted and impactful to the audience, and that we just weren't playing to get it all on there, right? Like find the pockets, find where silence serves music better, and really get the impact and like make it move people on the record, right? Not just at the show. But yeah, I mean, So to answer your question, we were close. I don't think we had a full record, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
it was quite a while ago.
Yeah,
but we were pretty close, and yeah, we were on our way into recording, and then it just kind of fell apart. But we didn't get to tracking. Yeah, so the ones that we did have, I think we had some rough scratch tracks, and I don't know if Chad has them or where they are out there, but we had some rough scratch tracks out there with I think the lion's share of the instrumentation prepped, and in general we usually focused on vocals last, so I wouldn't be surprised if most of them were missing vocals. But I remember us hashing out vocals on about like half of the songs or so. We were kind of locking them in. So.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's why I'm so glad that I have a show that I'm able to ask those questions. And I do want to apologize. I'm asking you to remember 10 plus years ago in most cases. So let me apologize for that for sure. But I am very glad you are able to answer a lot of the things that I'm thinking of. So I appreciate that. Now, this is obviously a wild dream that I'm sure a lot of us Scary Kids fans are having. But if things were to go well in this tour, do you think the possibility might be there to take some of those songs and possibly put Cove on and do new music?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I really like my job right now.
Yeah.
And also, so the time dedication is a challenging thing.
Right.
Also, I mentioned it's a very difficult thing to maybe try to do Scary Kids without Tyson.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know how that would go, or how that would happen, or how that would make sense. And if that did happen, I want it to be the right way, and I'm not sure what the right way is.
Right.
To be honest, because we just haven't thought about any of that.
Yeah.
So this reunion tour is just literally a way to kind of revisit a special moment in our lives and have fun, and then we'll get the reunion tour done, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But there are no plans. No, definitely no plans to write or record any songs at the moment.
You're not gonna rip off that business suit and just be like, "Yeah, punk rock, baby." I got you.
Hell yeah, I am, dude. For 2 weeks, and then another 2 weeks in the fall.
That's right. That is right. Well,
listen, it's fun, but I'm really enjoying creating what I'm creating in other entertainment spaces right now.
No, that's awesome, and I think a lot of, and maybe it's the people you hang around with, it's the people you hear from, but a lot of people aren't really that happy with their careers and what they're doing in life, and they're always pushing for something more. And it's good to hear that you are in a place right now that you're happy with your career and you're happy with your life, and then something like this comes along and it's just something extra. It's something extra that you get to revisit the person that you were before, but you still have your life to go back to.
Yeah, well, it's very kind of you to say, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I worked really hard to, I guess, get the privilege to kind of do work that I'm proud of. I think that was the case with the band.
Yeah.
And that also feels like it's the case for me with some other stuff that I've done.
No, for sure. So it's not to put down any band on here or anything like that, but I do want to mention, you're talking about, you don't want to disrespect Tyson's memory, and you're trying to, kind of walk a tightrope in a way to make sure that you're showing respect and you're showing tribute. I always thought it was weird. Did you see what they did? And you've been out of the scene, but did you see what they did with Static X?
With who?
Static X. Do you remember them?
No.
Okay. So recently they did, so Wayne Static had passed away, and I think it was actually, it might have even been this year or late last year, but they put on a tour where they were doing all Static X songs. So they had the original Static X lineup, but then they had, if I'm not mistaken, it was the lead singer of Dope, and he was dressed up as Wayne Static doing the songs. And that always seemed really weird to me. But this, the way you guys are doing it, the way that you guys are doing it for Tyson, it seems a whole lot different and the right way to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man, that sounds uncomfortable.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. So let's leave that, because I just had to bring it up because I'm sure you guys have been a little bit worried about that. And by the way, I wanted to ask, I'm not sure if this is too personal or not, but did Tyson's family at all contact you about this when they heard? Did you guys talk to them before you did this?
Yeah, so we're all close with Tyson's family. We all stay in touch.
Okay.
And Pete's close to Tyson's family, and he definitely gave him a heads up and had a conversation with them and made sure that they felt comfortable with this. Yeah, we love the Stevens family, and
yeah, you guys are doing this the right way and respectfully, and I just want to get that out there. So I think one of the big things about the tour as well is you guys partnered with To Write Love on Our Arms. Now, with this organization, what do they bring to the table for this specific tour?
Yeah, and so I'll say, we were really stoked to hear. We reached out to them and we wanted them to be a part of this. I think, listen, there's no question the kind of music that we wrote and put out is very angsty, right? And it kind of might appeal to a certain audience that maybe listen, I loved this stuff, and I wasn't dealing with suicide or any of that kind of stuff. But there are definitely some people that listen to this music that are, and not listening to this music, that are dealing with suicide or addiction or alcoholism, or they're just going through a really tough time with depression. And To Write Love on Her Arms provides services to those people, not just musicians or the general public that's having a problem. You can talk to them, you can call them, you can reach out, you can figure out what services you have available to you in your area, in whatever your financial situation is, whatever your income bracket is. They can help you find people to talk to or places to go to help you through that kind of stuff. And we realize it's an issue, like in our neighborhood in Gilbert, Arizona, right? It's a really, really good community. It's a healthy community. We had a lot of overdoses. We had a lot of addiction, and everybody, I think everybody has a friend or two that's dealing with depression at any age, right? I know I've had friends in high school to today that are dealing with depression, and it's listen, I don't know. I mean, there's a stigma around all this, and I honestly don't know how to talk about it. You've heard me stumble a couple times, trying to figure out how to talk about this interview.
No,
I don't know how to talk about any of this stuff. So we thought it was important to bring a pro out with us, who could be there right next to the merch area, and they're gonna literally just be a resource for people to talk to. And if anyone personally isn't affected by it or doesn't have a family member that they want to get resources for, they can donate to Write Love on Our Arms. They can donate directly, or they can donate by purchasing a piece of their clothing or some of the other stuff they'll have on sale there.
Yeah.
And so basically just a group of people that know how to talk about this stuff in a smart way and can really help us through that awkward silence.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And help some people out, hopefully.
Right. Yeah. And I certainly didn't want to put you on the spot there. It's more, you want to bring light to a very cool organization, and then for you guys to be able to take them out with you to partner this way, it's just a great resource to be able to bring to people that'll also be going to the show. Because like you mentioned, it's just, you're there for a show, but then if you had to put any work into it, maybe you wouldn't go out for help. But this gives you a very convenient way. So it's just very cool to be able to not only go out there and make people happy with your music, but then also possibly help people along the way too.
Yeah, and they're there. And like, if you have any questions, just small talk, just a couple questions thrown their way, and
Yeah.
and maybe they're right, maybe they're not, but they're there.
Exactly. Well, let's switch gears. This is going to be a complete shift in tone here, but I think it's good. I never have the chance to do this, and anytime I have a chance to talk to someone who was on Pop Goes Crunk, I'm going to do it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it just doesn't come along that often. So I just wanted to know, I mean, talk about nostalgia, talk about, all the stuff from the past there with Warped Tour and everything. You guys were on Pop Goes Crunk. And I just want to know, what was the experience like with that? Did you guys get to choose Notorious Thugs, or did you guys want to do something else? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I honestly think it was Chad's decision to do Punkas, or that Notorious Thugs song. We're like, all right, man, let's do it. And then, yeah, I mean, like those things kind of get ramped up and out of control. He's like, why don't we just rap it? And then it was almost a dare.
Yeah.
To do it. And we're like, all right, sure, we'll try it. And not like any of us are even slightly talented at rapping, but again, we couldn't turn down the dare, so we all did it. And like, it's funny to us. Like, there were so many things that we did as a joke, but like, no, but to be honest, they, the band has a lot of respect for Notorious Thugs, so we did it. But I don't know that we were the right band to be covering that track.
Gotcha. Well, you also did, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Punko's 90s. You did Losing My Religion as well, which I thought was very cool. So it's so interesting to know the process behind this stuff. So when they come to you, do you choose the songs that you want to do, or do they have a list for it?
Yeah, so with those specific examples, they told us the concept, and we provided a few options. And they selected it, yeah. And I think the REM song, so we did Losing My Religion from REM. And I think tonally that made a little more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
For Scary Kids Scaring Kids than Punk Goes Crunk, Notorious Thugs did. Both great songs, but again, one we might have been a little more in our like wheelhouse than the other. Yeah.
Well, I think that's why it still stands out. I mean, especially to any fans of any of the bands on those compilations. I think, I don't know, it brings an extra side, or it shows an extra side of the band that's kind of cool. Yeah. So I enjoy that. I hope I didn't bring back really bad memories on that one, because
just embarrassing ones.
Well, then I definitely did my job on that one. All right. Well, I got to ask you.
I really like that REM cover. I think that one was a lot of fun to make.
Yeah, I actually really. Now, I'm guessing you probably wouldn't do that one live, but would you ever throw something like that in? Maybe.
Yeah, sure, maybe, absolutely.
I mean, I guess it's a little bit tougher since you're not really, like we mentioned multiple times, you're not really in the scene as much anymore. Would there be a track right now you think would be a good cover for Scary Kids?
That's a good question. Let me think on that.
Yeah. And actually, while you're thinking, I'll go on here for a second, because I don't know if this is true whatsoever, but I was talking to a friend who is very familiar with Scary Kids, and I said there was the possibility that this interview might happen. And he mentioned when you guys did Bamboozle, he remembered you guys taking over, it was either their Twitter or their Instagram at the time, but you took it over and then you didn't give the password back, and you just continued posting weird things on their whatever social media it was. Was that true, or was he thinking of something else?
Listen, that might have been true. I don't remember it. But
okay.
It's a possibility. It's not perfect.
I had to check. I had to at least check. All right. I gave you a little time there. Think of anything.
All right, sure. Journey, but that's not really like today. But yeah, I think Journey would be fun to cover.
Any specific song?
No. Just all of it. All of it, nothing specific.
You celebrate their entire
anything we pick from, what's my favorite album? Anyways, just to give you context, I'm like going through my records right now to find the Journey album that I own. But yeah, I think any song from Journey would be great.
I would love to hear it. That is for sure. I think, man, I wish I could remember, but I think someone covered on either Punk Goes 80s or something. Someone did. Oh, I know who did it because I had them on the show. If I'm not mistaken, A Skylit Drive did at least one Journey song.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, if you remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, Journey's great. Listen, I mean, like, Glee can cover Journey, and you'll love those covers, right? I don't care who plays a Journey song. You're going to be singing along. Or at least that's my relationship with Journey. I don't know what yours is, but I'll be singing along.
I think, to be quite honest, I think my relationship with Journey is when Don't Stop Believing comes on at 1 a.m. in the bar.
Yeah, and that's a great moment.
It really is. So I think we're pretty much coming. I just realized we're actually around an hour right now. So I'm going to have to let you go very soon because I know you've got a ton of practicing to do, obviously. So
that's right.
We'll do the announcement again. You've got the tour coming up in January. And then now I know you're not going to announce the specific areas, but you did say East Coast in the fall, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, is it because of Cove's touring schedule and then your guys' work schedules of why there'll be such a time off in between the January ones to fall?
Yeah, so I'll say this. I'm saying fall just to kind of like give myself a cushion, but truthfully, it might be a little bit earlier.
Okay.
We don't know exactly when it's going to be, but yes, it is because of everyone's availability and juggling schedules that it's going to be a bit further out than immediately back to back.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right, Pouyan, I could stay on and talk to you forever and ever about every single Scary Kids show and the ones that I went to and how you were feeling about everything. Believe me, I could. And maybe I'll have to have you on, after the first leg of the tour is done and we can go over what that experience was like for you for sure. But I do not want to chew your ear off for forever. And I want to plug the tour. You've got Scary Kids Scaring Kids, the 15th anniversary tour for The City Sleeps in Flames. Wow. Do you ever have a problem saying that, by the way?
No.
I'm glad I'm the only idiot. That's fine. Anytime I try and say that at a reasonable speed, it's like to write love on her arms. I can't say that fast for some reason.
Right.
If I want to say that fast, The City Sleeps in Flames. There we go. See, I got that time. So it's the 15th anniversary tour for that. It's amazing that this is even happening. You've got Cove from Seosin and from Dead American coming back for this. You've got core members. It's going to be really, really great. So I will have links so people can definitely buy tickets for that. But Pouyan, for right now, is there any other way that people can support you guys?
No, I think just come out for the show, say what's up, and let's revisit this community. I think it was a blast talking to you, and I really appreciate your time. And look forward to seeing you out there.
Absolutely, man.
You've been listening to Scene Daddy Interviews.
Thank you for listening to the Scene Daddy podcast. Just a few quick things. Make sure to check out the links in every interview to support the artist you just heard. And if you liked what you heard, you can support me by following Real Ian Scene, all one word, on social media for all your scene news and hopefully some jokes. Plus, don't forget to follow all of Scene Daddy's social media for all the best memes and catch up on all Scene Daddy interviews and podcasts at scenedaddy.com and all your favorite podcast listening apps. Lastly, don't forget, stay seen.